To everybody. Ritu is here today with yet another thought-provoking self-help book authored by Robin Sharma. And I've read The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, and I really quite liked it. And so, over to please begin with a brief about the author.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. As we all know, Robin Sharma is a respected globally humanitarian. He's LLB, LLM, and he is an esteemed authority on leadership, peak performance, and life management. Few of his finest works are The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, The 5 a.m. Club, The Leader Who Had No Title. These books are written in over 92 languages. So he is the you can say, one of the most widely read authors of today. And some of his clientels are the famed billionaires, the Fortune 100 companies, and the superstars and the sportspersons. Thank you.
Okay, so as I say the title of the book, Who Will Cry When You Die? It's quite thought-provoking. We all agree to that. So it's very deep and it leaves you intrigued, you really get to thinking because such topics generally don't come up very often in, society. So can you throw some light on the title? What does it mean?
Yes, the title is actually eye-catching, I would say. And when Manju ma'am had put up about this book on the group, it kind of, drew my attention. And to my blessing, I received the book next day. So,
Great.
As an ancient saying goes, when you were born, the whole world laughed while you cried. So live your life in such a way, when you die, the whole world cries and you rejoice. Today we are living in an era when we don't know what life is. We put a man on the moon, but on the next moment we have a trouble crossing the road and going and meeting a new neighbor. We are very good at aiming a missile on the map with a pinpoint accuracy, but at the same time we have a trouble taking our kids for a date on a library. We are in an age where we have mails, internet, digital phones, everything is available to us at the fingertip. But yet we all are lonely. We know the humans are not connected. We have lost humanity. We have lost the touch to the purpose of life. We have lost the whole essence of, we're not seeing what is there to be achieved right now. We all want to live a life. We need to live a life which is, joyful, more complete, and more deliberately. We are leading a life by chance rather than we should live by choice. We're living a life by default. We need to design our lives. So that's something which we all need to think about. When the author is talking about something very interesting, and that's one thing what he's talking about is when George Bernard Shaw when he was on his deathbed, someone asked him, what is it, if you're given a chance once again to lead a life, what would you do? He said, I would want a life and which I could live then but did not live. So we always have regrets of not doing things. We never have regrets of doing a thing. That's something we all need to, pay our thing. And how do we make this whole process simple and loving and enjoy the whole process of life? It's just one single and simple thing that's called your calling. We all have that potential in us. We all have that special talent which we need to tap and pursue it in a very happy manner. And maybe once when you know what your USP is, you work on it. I'm not saying leave the job what you're doing currently now, but I want you to at least focus on what you're doing the best. Give yourself the best what you can at that moment and work on it. But while doing that, don't forget to be kind to people around you. So when you are doing something like that, focusing on the best, and you want to make changes, so the world will not let you change. You have to make the change. So as Mahatma Gandhi rightly said, be the change you want to see in the world for yourself. And while doing this, I'm sure you're going to face certain problems. There will be certain obstacles to it, but you will have problems. But then treat your problems as your blessings. There's no harm in that.
That's really contradictory. See your troubles as your blessings. Not very easy It's easily said. What does the author say about this, Ritu? Please tell us.
Yes, it certainly is contradictory, but when you read this chapter called Treat Your Troubles as Your Blessings, you will realize the author is trying to tell you something like we all have made mistakes. None of us, anyone in this room who has not learned from their mistakes, I'm sure none of us of that kind. Inevitably, all of us are going to raise our hands. So, what he says, we have made our mistakes. Despite the mistakes, have we learned from them and have we moved ahead? It's not that we're sticking on to it's like not repeating the same mistake again. So he talks about something like, a cat once happened to sit on a hot stove lid and had a very bad experience. And since then she did not sit. So we don't have to stop sitting on the lid. We have to, do the same task again. But then just be careful of what you're doing. You cannot say, oh, I made a mistake and I cannot repeat it again. You have to mend your ways and reach your targets. Then he even talks about something like, when you start riding a bicycle and you fall. So it's okay, you've fallen because you're learning to ride. It's the same way when you're trying to learn to play a guitar. It's a few strings or the notes which you've played are wrong. It's totally fine. He even talks about the mistakes and the problems what you face. They are like blessings. They enrich you with more of wisdom. And then you realize the mistakes, the failures, the sufferings all made you in a good human itself. So we need to realize that pain is a teacher and failure is a part to success. That's the key learning from this. And while doing this, it's okay. You don't have to be harsh on yourself. You can go quite slow. Do it at your own pace. You're in no competition with anyone.
Yes, that's absolutely true. Be kind to yourself. We always hear that. We think about it also. The world is enough, I think, to be cruel to us. So we can be kind to ourselves, right, Ritu? So these are a few very beautiful things he has talked about. Be kind to yourself. These are the key learnings we should take away. We keep hearing about all this, but somehow never get down to it.
Yes, he's very nicely stated that, it's okay, you've done a mistake. We don't have to keep beating ourselves for the mistake which has been done in the past. You have to learn from them, move ahead, they are your teachers, and you have to make a progress. I would really want all of you to actually go home and do this activity for yourself. Take a pen and paper, write down all the 10 biggest mistakes of your life on the left hand side. On the right hand side, you could have the corresponding lessons you've learned from that mistakes. You will realize those mistakes have eventually made you a more rich and colorful person, what you are today, which we actually don't give credit to. And we know how our mind is. Our mind is our best friend and yet our worst enemy. The more you feed it with negativity, the more it dwells on it. So we need to, monkey, they say our mind is a monkey, so you need to train your monkey. And you need to train it in a way that you need to focus on things which you want, not on the things which you don't want. So when he talks about, the mind even has this very strange habit of remembering things we want to forget and forgetting things we want to remember. So the whole thing, what is going on in our mind is what we need to work on. And it's the mind who's making us behave in such a way. So he talks about, write down all these things. So you will realize where I've made the mistake, what's my learning. So that's one good thing. So that will help you in your self-growth, your lifelong lessons of learning, and your self-improvement.
Of course, training the mind is a must.
Yes. And again, when doing this, we should be kind to ourselves and to people around us. Kindness is a virtue which is never out of fashion.
No, and we do kindness for others but never to ourselves. We are not kind to ourselves. Yes. Okay, so this brings me to the next question. He's talked about parent-child relationship in that book. It's a beautiful, I think, chapter. And all of us, I think, we are in the process of either raising children or we've raised our children. So we would love to hear something about that chapter with you.
In this book, he particularly talks about how we need to model our children. You don't have to go somewhere outside to learn from someone how to lead a very happy and a joyful life. Just look at your children. Robin Sharma actually had an incident when he took his son for lunch one of the days and he had ordered for pasta and a fresh baked bread. His child happened to just, scoop out the soft part of the bread and the butter, and he ate that. And he was just, looking in awe that, what have you done? You've just taken the best part out of the bread. So that's what we need to do. Why we need to dig into the crust of the life? Why can't we take the best of it? And we as elders, we are just trying to dig into the crust of everything. Just learn to take things, the best part out of everything. And when you're doing this, you even realize that to model a child is actually the easiest thing you can do, because he's an example right in front of you 24/7. And he even talks about, your children are your most important pillars of life. We learn from children. At the same time, how can you be there for your child? Just by giving them time. They don't need any of your material possession. He talks about a child who always wanted to be, take his father. The child wanted to go on a piggy for his father, but the father eventually did not find any time, and he realized the child has grown into an adult, and then he has a family of his own. So the time is running. It's just flowing like the grains of sand from a hand. We're not realizing. And when you're there for your child, you have to realize one more thing. We need to be better parents. By better parents, we are going on the footsteps of our own parents. What they did to us, we're doing the same to them. We have no other ideology what we are working on. So to have better ideologies and better system, I think we all need to attend seminars, read good big books, listen to our own child. Maybe he'll have a better way of telling us. And by rewriting your own life, we say, nahi, hum to aise hi karte aa rahe hain. That's not the way. We have to mend our ways and work with our child and see what works the best in your laboratory of life. It just doesn't go same for everyone. And
Stereotypes won't work.
Stereotypes
won't work.
And what legacy are we leaving for our children? That's also one thing we have to think of.
Yes. Thought provoking again. Legacy. By legacy, what do we understand? कि ये छोड़ के जाएंगे, घर छोड़ के जाएंगे, we'll leave this for our child, this for a child. I think here he doesn't mean this by when he says leave a legacy. It means leave your values, leave something, something to cherish, not material every time. Material things like just Ritu just said, children don't need material things all the time. They need our time, they need to be told that they are important. Like she said, stereotypes won't work. One to its own. All the children. Yeah. So what legacy should we leave behind, Ritu?
So this is a very big contribution you are doing for the future generation. So, even when you're bringing up a child, you're working on the future generation.
Absolutely. We owe it to the society.
Yes.
Bringing up empathetic citizens, yes.
So that's very, very important, when you look at the children, it's like, as I spoke about, it's the time what you need to give them. When you're giving them the time, you're giving them the essence of life, you're giving them the crux of life. You're trying to tell them this is how things have been working, and how you eventually have to form into yourself into an adult. Then you have a family of your own, and by this again there is no material possession what I'm talking about. Maybe I can leave a legacy of good books for my 2 sons. It's a library what I leave. You could leave a better environment. You could have a legacy statement made for yourself, and you can see how your children come up with it. And again, legacy is again not something which will be there when you are alive. It's something which is, the greatness of a legacy is it's carried forward even when you are not there. So begin with the greatness that it's carried forward even if you're not alive. That's called a legacy.
Absolutely, very true. So, moving forward, when we talk of leaving a legacy, I'm sure it comes again to the title of the book, Who Will Cry When You Die? So, what, I don't know how to put it, how to ask, how do we move, so for the onward journey, if you could say that. How to prepare for that, deliberately.
Yes. This is actually quite interesting, we are waiting for life to come to us like, ye kal karenge, ye parso karenge. And first 50 years of our life we are spending in making that thing as, material position and your prestige or your fame, you're working on that. And then you work the next 50 years on your legacy. It's not like that. You need to start working now. So for that, he's spoken very nicely about, a living funeral. There was this Maharaja in the old Indian times. Every day he would wake up and he would have this very bizarre morning ritual, which would say he would have a living funeral. And he would, have it in a proper way with flowers, music, and everyone around. And everyone found it a little weird. What is he trying to do? But he would say, I have lived fully. I have lived fully. And, everyone talked about what is he trying to do? Why does he do it every day? So, before we realize the time has slipped, the days have moved into months, months into years, and we have a life. What are we left with? A life full of regret and a heart full of regret and a life which is half lived. Do we want that? We really don't want that. So just don't wait for something for, I will do this when I have the time or after 10 years. Begin with that right now. You never know what's going to happen next. And to read more about this, you could read a similar book called Tuesdays with Maury.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's a very beautiful book. I think every page of that book is like, words of wisdom. In that, he also talks about the same thing. The professor is on his deathbed, and he has a student. The student comes every Tuesday to meet him, and that's when he talks to him about value of life, essentials of life, about mortality, about children, and that's when he even talks about a living funeral. So if you want to have a living funeral, you would realize we are just taking our lives for granted. We are waiting, kal karenge, parso karenge. No, there is no kal, there is no parso to everything. As of now, we all have we are leading a life that we have taller buildings, but shorter tempers. We have more happiness, but we have less of emptiness in us. And then we are talking about things like, globalization and things like that, where we want everything, but we are not realizing it's not the big things that matter to us. It's the small, simple things. Doing them consistently, working on your self growth is the most important thing which we need to work on. So that's the essential thing what you need to work on.
Yeah, we're always working on the bigger things. Paisa kamana hai, build a house, buy a big luxury car. But yeah, spending time with a friend or with your child, or for that matter, coming for a pick a book session. For that we don't find time. And yes, that's.
I have a few questions. I would really want to just put those questions to you and just leave with that food of thought for you. Just leave with those thoughts tonight and see how it works for you. Just close your eyes and listen to these questions. Maybe this will give you some thought coming to your minds. So, what's your calling? Are you leading a life of fullness with each passing day? What's your understanding about death? What shakes you up when you think of death? Are you prepared for it? Are you ready for your final journey? Or are you waiting for a solo trip, a holiday with your children, or maybe a coffee with a friend? What is it that's holding you? Just think about it. Give yourself that thought. And I'm sure this will really rise that calling in you, and you will realize which direction to take. Thank you.
So I have to end this, very recently I had written this very short poem about the same topic. So if you would allow, I'll just read out. I called it Departure. When I depart, it should be a piece of art. Only joy and cheer, not a single drop of tear. My memories should bring a smile. Such should have been my living style. Spreading happiness and positive vibes, creating bliss for the human tribe. Living a life full of care and prayer, may God give me the strength to always bear. Bear in mind to be eternally kind, to help others I should be inclined. The souls I hurt or caused them pain, forgiveness I seek, but not in vain. A life well lived is all I seek. It should be a winning streak. The lives I touch and friends of mine, may they remember me in good design. When I depart, may I remain forever in their heart. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I would like to give you the standing ovation. Such an amazing presentation. I had many
Thank you so much.
So Ritu is ready for some questions if anybody wants to.
Or any feedback?
Can I give you a warm hug?